Oh, we are so back and we are live. Personalized podcast coming right at you from
Let's go. Let's
Yards for
go.
Fantasy. Let's go. So I'm Alex. That's Sam. We've got the Big Ten League tonight. It's a dynasty league, and of course,
This is
10 teams.
my first dynasty. It's kind
Ah,
of exciting.
yeah, the dynasty leagues. We actually, when Schulte came to me with the idea for this service, I think we were really thinking about it as a dynasty league service.
Mhm.
And then it really caught on with redraft leagues. They love it. Now, of course, they all come and they sign up all at the same time at the end of August, beginning of September, so we don't have time to go through them all.
Right.
But it's great to have some dynasty leagues. I like to do that. I would like to start doing them like in the off season as well. Look at these teams, look at these leagues in the off season. We have a little bit more time to go through the rosters a little bit deeper.
Yeah, maybe talk
Um,
about some moves that they've made in the off season to
right,
position
exactly.
themselves for the following season.
Yeah, look at the rookie draft and all that stuff. But we got this one here. We are week 3, and I think our plan should be to start at the bottom of the standings with the
Okay.
losers, and then we'll work our way up to the top to the big boys.
That sounds good to me.
All right, cool. So let's start. Vinegar Strokes,
Okay.
0-2. So they got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Then
Good
they're
start for this week.
good start for this week, but then a little shaky at running back here. Gus Edwards and Rico Dowdle as the top 2 backs. We'll see if there's injuries involved here at all. I would assume there's probably some injuries on this team if they're starting Gus Edwards and Rico Dowdle, but we'll get to that. Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Tank Dell, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith, and Jigba had a nice breakout last week. We got Daniel Jones in the super flex spot. We got Caleb Williams waiting in the wings, though, on the bench, along with Stafford. A couple other quarterbacks here, Nick Mullins and Winston. Some names that stand out to me on the bench. Trey Sermon, maybe a deep, handcuff guy. Same with Tank Bigsby, Tajay Spears, Devon Bailey, the oldest rookie to ever play. Greg Dortch, Tutu Atwell, Colby Parkinson. Then we get the injury reserve. We got Jonathan Brooks and Kendra Miller. The coaches hate Kendra Miller. Jalen Brooks, Blake Corum, Jared Wiley, Malachi Corley, and Reese Zamet on the taxi squad. All right, this team is pretty rough shape here.
Yeah.
What stands out to you?
Well, I mean, when you go to when you just start with the starting lineup, I like what's going on here at wide receiver because you're going to be able to have Chase and Waddle for a while. I think Dell's numbers will be down this year, but he should bounce back. That's going to be dependent on whether they bring Diggs back. But Zay Flowers and Smith and Jigma is nice depth. So he's got, I mean, the starting lineup is really not bad, except for, like you said, the running backs. I think maybe before this season, you could have thought that Edwards and Dowdle would have both been slightly above average, and that's just not come to fruition as of yet. So um, there's not a whole lot of depth here. I'm assuming Jones is in for Stafford just because Stafford's weapons are all out. Although I do like this team a lot because they have Colby Parkinson, who is
Of
like,
course, of course.
I'm such a stan. I flag planted Colby Parkinson
Well,
so many times.
who else are they throwing to at this point? It's got to be Colby Parkinson time.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is it. This is it.
Lining up perfectly for you. I know you're sitting at home with a little voodoo doll and
Oh
just
my
killing
god.
Puka Nakua, killing Cooper Cup just so Colby Parkinson happens.
Right. So yeah, I mean the team, it's got a lot of handcuffs, but obviously this team is probably built for a half rebuild.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to hang on to like your Chase and your Waddle. and you're in Jigba and Caleb, obviously. And then beyond that, there's just not much that you need to attach yourself to for the future.
Right.
So this is going to be one of those teams where when it gets to about halfway through the season, if you're not completely in the shitter yet, but you're like kind of almost there, or you're just middling in the middle ground because you've got a decent starting lineup, it's time to start selling pieces. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good draft pick out of the deal either.
Yeah. So this screams to me like an early. This is kind of going through the process of a rebuild here, and it's kind of the way I would want to rebuild. You're going after these wide receivers. You're starting there, and then
Yep.
you can kind of work your way out to quarterback and tight end and a running back. So you're good with those young stud wide receivers: Chase, Waddle, Dell, Flowers, and Jigba, just like you mentioned. And then you've also got multiple first round picks here, which is good. Multiple firsts, multiple seconds, multiple thirds. So that's a good start here. This could be, if you play your cards right, this could be your 2025, 2026 champion, possibly,
Yeah.
if things go right. I mean, you got, even some of the running backs who are sitting here waiting. You got Jonathan Brooks on injury reserve.
Right.
Maybe Kendre Miller happens at some point. Maybe we get Blake Corum breaking out
Like
at some
Corum.
point.
Yeah.
Plus the first round picks. This could be a team that goes from zero to hero real fast.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned that the 25 draft class, I liken it to the way the 24 class was with wide receivers. The 25 class is going to be like that with running backs. There's just a deluge of good running backs coming in, and I'm not usually a fan of taking them quickly, but when you're staring at really good picks, and the guys are just looking at you on the board, you can't pass them up. So you might end up with those young wide receivers since you already did that, and then pick up some really solid running backs. Maybe with that other first round pick, you get yourself a quarterback to pair with Caleb.
Yeah, yeah. This is a really really good start for a rebuild. I would definitely like the direction this team is going for sure. Not what I expected when I saw we're going to start with the bottom team. I
Right.
think I think we got some good pieces to work with here. All right, let's move on to rural Central Florida basement. You want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. Starting lineup, we're starting off with Justin Fields, which is whatever. Like kind of a wait and see situation. DeAndre Swift from Chicago, Travis Etienne, Jacksonville, Quentin Johnston, Chris Godwin, Alan Lazard, Dalton Kincaid, Demarcus Robinson, Christian Kirk, and Minshew. And then on the bench, God, what are you going to do? Taysom Hill's out this week, probably. I kid. Taysom Hill, Drew Lock, Jordan Love, Malik. So he's just stacking up backup quarterbacks. Um, uh, Benson, Algier, Michael Wilson, Tyler Boyd, who's on his last legs, Curtis Samuel, Ray McLeod. I think he has more catches than I planned on him having this whole season. Jalen Naylor, Michael Mayer, and injured reserve Eli Mitchell, DJ Chark, and Christian McCaffrey, which is pretty huge. And then you guys got really big taxi squads. I don't know how
Yeah, we
many
do.
you're allowed to have. They showed 6 on
This
the
one's got
previous
7.
one. This one's got 7. So you've got JJ, who's going to be back next year. Johnson, the tight end, Whittington, Devontae, Ricky Pearsall, Burton, and Tracy. I really like that taxi squad overall, and still has pretty much the standard draft picks. Hasn't given many away except for the second next year.
Mm-hmm.
and then has pretty much 1 through 5 beyond that. So what are you thinking, Alex?
Well, at first glance, this team's definitely worse than the last team that we saw. But I do think it's also, there are still some pieces in place, not as many as the last team, but there are still some pieces that you can kind of build around if you're doing a little bit of a rebuild, a little bit of a retool here. I mean, a wide receiver, with Godwin, you're feeling good about him, but he's, not a young chicken by any means.
No.
Quentin Johnston, I don't know. Are we believing that this is?
I'm starting to,
I don't know.
but just because he's kind of the de facto right now.
Yeah,
Because Palmer is disappointing me so badly that I think Johnston is the guy besides McConkey.
yeah. I think your first move, as soon as Christian McCaffrey starts his way back, I think you're putting that guy on the trade block.
Yep.
We gotta move on from him because this team's not going to make any noise in 2024. I mean, we don't have. We've got one quarterback that you can feel good about with Jordan Love, moving beyond 2024.
Maybe McCarthy when he comes back if he.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, McCarthy as well. Yeah, you're right. Receivers
yeah.
are really nothing really stands out to me at receiver. I'm not a big Ricky Pearsall guy.
Me neither. And then we've got some a little bit older pieces that are just kind of always wide receiver 2 or 3s. Demarcus Robinson's useless to anybody unless what happened this year has happened so far.
Right.
Christian Kirk was great last year, and now he's playing second fiddle to Brian Thomas, it seems like.
Yeah.
Gotta love Kincaid at tight end. I'm notorious for not really buying into Kincaid, but I mean he's got talent, so I will admit that. But yeah, there's going to be an opportunity here for you to net first round picks for next season. If you're willing to let go of the McCaffreys. I'm not a big believer that ETN can continue this his rushing output from last season. So maybe he goes on the block when somebody is down a bunch of running backs.
Yeah.
You might be able to get a couple firsts or a first and a second out of some of the scrap metal here.
Yeah, no, I agree. You're definitely putting some guys on the block. I think the player I'm feeling the best about on those rosters probably Dalton Kincaid and Jordan Love, and both of them have had disappointing starts so far. So this team needs a lot of help. Exactly like you said, I'm definitely putting the guys that you mentioned on the block. Even I think we can get some production from DeAndre Swift here. He's got a good role. Like they're definitely feeding DeAndre Swift. There's been no evidence of Khalil Herbert, doing anything in that offense this year.
No, or Rashawn Johnson.
Yeah. If Roshan Johnson hadn't been punched in the face, I would have forgot he's still on the roster.
Right.
So yeah, Swift, I think at some point is going to get going when the offense gets going. And I think at that point, you're going to put him on your trade block as well. This team needs a lot of work. This team is multiple years away.
Yeah, and I'm gonna repeat the same thing I said about the last team. It's one of those things where when McCaffrey comes back and you're starting to feel better about your lineup because Kincaid starts performing and Godwin keeps it up and Quentin Johnson gets more consistent. You're going to be feeling pretty good about your team, but it's not good enough.
Right.
So you got to not be afraid to trade people away because you don't want to end up in the middle of the pack and get a draft slot like 6th, not that I think it would be even that high, but you want to shoot for the bottom without obviously tanking, you can't just bench everybody, but
this will be my predictions. We've only looked at 2 teams. This is going to be your last place team for this year.
Yeah, I would say so far.
All right. Let's go on to the Midgard Warriors. We're starting strong with C.J. Stroud. And then we got Kyron Williams, Devon Achane at running back, George Pickens, Juwan Jennings, Devontae Adams at wide receiver, Kyle Pitts, Zamir White, Najee Harris, Andy Dalton, QB1, sitting
All
there
right.
in the super flex spot. But that is in place of Justin Herbert. On the bench, we've also got Raheem Mostert, Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams, Chuba Hubbard, Khalil Herbert, Yoshivas, Mike Williams, AJ Brown, Debo Samuel. So we got some injured guys here. Darnell Mooney, Taxi Squad, Ray Davis, Audric Estime, Malik Washington, Keon Coleman, Isaac Warrendo, Brenton Strange, and Keaton Mitchell. I don't think we're really we're not maximizing this roster here. I've noticed it's a few guys who are listed as out, a few guys on IR, on PUP that are not in the injured reserve slots. I really like to just maximize the roster. Go put those guys in the reserve, on injured reserve, pick up some guys off the waiver wire just to stash and just see what happens. I know this is a deeper league. I haven't looked at who's available on the waiver wire, but there's got to be at least somebody worth stashing. Just like, let's see what happens. Like, maximize our roster here.
Well, yeah, and even just by the fact that Andy Dalton is there and Juwan Jennings just reminds me that this is a 10-team league. So there are guys out there because there's no way both of those guys were already rostered.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what the taxi rules are here for this team. I know you don't have to pull anybody off the taxi to get him into IR because then you usually can't add someone else to taxi. Depending on the rules, there's several different ways that Sleeper handles that. But you should be able to move AJ Brown and Debo to at least IR short term, and then just make a move when they come back. But I like Yosivash for the future. I think he's already going to have a better season this year than he's had, and he's going to be a nice. He's going to have to battle Burton, but it's going to be a nice replacement for T. Higgins. And I just think Yoshi's probably the better football player. But boy, Miles Sanders. Yeah, this is a tough one too. This must be a very top heavy league.
Yeah, I'm thinking so.
I do like your starting lineup for this week. I mean, Stroud, Kyron, Achane. I like Juwan Jennings this week a lot, and possibly the next 2 weeks too. Devontae Adams is Devontae Adams if somebody can throw the ball far enough. Kyle Pitts will have a nice bounce, and I like Zamir White this week. If it's the only week, fine. But
yeah, against the Panthers,
yeah. I think they're allowing 200 yards rushing a game.
It's been bad.
So, but definitely, again, this is another team that has some work to do. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but we did start at the bottom of the standings.
Right. It would look a lot better once you got a healthy Debo and AJ Brown, then.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would.
That's a pretty strong receiving core with AJ Brown, Debo, Pickens, Adams.
Yeah. Oh, Mike Williams. Oh.
Second he catches a touchdown, you're putting him on the block.
I feel like I can never escape. But yeah, and I mean, Dalton will be serviceable for this team, but again, we're looking at a middling to bottom tier team right now. Although, if with everyone healthy, I don't know how the bye weeks shake out, but with everyone healthy, you're going to be able to put together a solid starting lineup, provided Herbert doesn't stay hurt all year. What did they say? Herbert's got an ankle injury.
Yeah, it's a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, it's really weird because I really expected the plantar fasciitis to be what hindered him all season.
Yeah, we haven't heard about that since like middle of August, I don't
Yeah,
think.
it doesn't
Since he's
just
come
go
back, it
away.
hasn't popped up. Yeah.
Yeah, so well, as soon as I saw that he was hurt, that's what I was expecting.
Well, according to Ian Rappaport, he's going to test it before the game tomorrow, and he said there's some optimism that he's going to play. He hasn't practiced all week, but
Right.
there's a chance he still plays this week. I mean, I'm not excited to start an injured Justin Herbert against the Steelers, but I'm more excited about what that would mean for, Lad McConkey and Quentin
Right.
Johnston and the
Right.
pass catchers there, and even like a J.K. Dobbins, just for the offense to just be decent.
Yeah. So definitely some work to do. And again, I'll remind everybody, since this is a 10-team league, you got to keep an eye on the waiver wire. I mean, all my dynasty leagues are 12 teams, and there's just never anybody there. There's never anybody there to pick up, unless it's like a deep trend, like the Strange or whatever his name is, the backup tight end from Jacksonville, who just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then it's like a race to get this guy that you're probably going to drop in a week.
Right.
But in a 10-team league, I would imagine your waiver wire is at least slightly more friendly, even though you guys have some really deep rosters.
Yeah, there's I mean some decent pickups. It's not quite as what I was thinking it was going to be available on the waiver wire.
Right.
I'm looking at it real quick right now. You got, I mean, probably the top players on the waiver. You're looking like Agumba Wale, Ty Johnson. It's definitely not as
Yeah.
I can't think of the word, but not as nice as what I would expect on a 10-team league. And I think because of these rosters and the taxi squads are so deep.
Yeah, I think that's it too. And obviously, they're not limited, or at least it doesn't look like they're limited to just rookies because you got Keaton Mitchell on this one.
Yeah, so they did add some context in the chat here. Taxi squad, you can keep a guy on the taxi squad for up to 2 years. But once they've moved off the taxi squad, they can't go back to the taxi squad.
Right.
So that kind of explains a little bit of how this team is looking here.
Right. So it's like a shuffle out. You move some to the roster like you normally would before the draft next year.
Yeah.
So that in the draft next year, your late round flyers can go there.
Right. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it with this team. The only other thing I want to mention, and this is kind of probably pointless to mention, but Isaac Guarendo. I like stashing Isaac Guarendo right now. More like in a redraft because he's the next guy up. If Jordan Mason goes down, the next guy up is Isaac Guarendo, this
Yep.
6', 221-pound, 4.33 speed guy in the Kyle Shanahan running scheme.
Well, is it 4.3 guy?
Yeah, he ran 4.33 at the combine.
Huh.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he did. All right, let's move on to the next team. You want to say the team name?
Can I say the team name?
I can't, so I don't know.
Godshins, Godshins. I don't know what the fuck that means.
I don't either.
Okay. All right, 1-1. This is our first team with a win. And surprisingly, Deshaun Watson's at the top. So we got Deshaun Watson, Josh Jacobs in Green Bay, D. Montgomery, Ayuk, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Zach Ertz, Khalil Shakir, my personal favorite, Ramondre, got a bad performance from him this week, and Gino, who's been playing pretty well. Garoppolo from the Rams, Jacoby, Jamal Williams, Pacheco, Thielen, Cup. I'm not sure why Pacheco's not on the IR. Cup, same deal. I guess I guess maybe some of these guys aren't on the IR just because these dudes know that there's nobody they want to pick up.
Well, it looks like his IR is pretty full.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll get there. Zacchaeus from Washington, Gabe Davis, who's always Gabe Davis. Tyler Johnson from the Rams. Rashad Bateman, De'Ami Brown, Tyler Conklin, Luke Musgrave, who's joining the tight end crew of disappointing people.
Yes, I know.
Nick Chubb, Hawkinson, and Rondale Moore. Oh, Rondale.
The never gonna happen, Rondale Moore.
It's never going to happen, Rondale.
Dream is never gonna happen.
No. And then on the taxi, Drake May, Brendan Rice, Roman Wilson, Javon Baker, and Kamani Vidal. And it looks like draft pick wise, also, you guys must not do a whole lot of training, or maybe we'll get to those when we get to the teams at the top.
Yeah.
But most of the picks are intact through 27. So what's jumping out to you here? He's got a bunch of players that I like that are projects.
Yeah. Well, first thing I noticed was we got Keenan Allen in the starting lineup, who's not going to play this week. So let's start there. Let's get him out of there. Yeah, this is another team that I just don't feel good about. I don't see like the first team we talked about. It was ugly, but we could see a bright future. I don't see a bright future with this team. I mean, quarterback is a mess. I don't think 3 years from now, I don't think Deshaun Watson's starting quarterback in the NFL. Probably could say the same thing about Geno Smith.
I agree.
And then you got nothing after that, unless we got somebody down here. We do have Drake May, I guess. Drake May. But even then, I mean, we need some more help there for sure. Running back, I mean, we're good. You know, Jacobs and Montgomery, Stevenson,
Pacheco.
Yeah, I mean, you're in pretty good shape there. But I especially when I'm a team that's, lower in the standings, I want to build my team, start building around these wide receivers for the long haul. And other than Ayuk, I'm really not seeing where we're doing that here.
Yeah, like I said, there's a couple guys that I like on this team that were projects when I drafted them. Shakir, I think, is going to end up having a good season this year. And I think he'll follow it up with an even better season in his third year next year. So are you laughing at me?
No, that was me.
Oh, so I'm not looking at the cast. I'm looking at Sleeper. So,
okay.
So I like Shakir a lot, and then there's a couple guys that I drafted that I sort of want to hold out hope for a little longer. Like, I refuse to let Javon Baker go because I believe there's still a shot that he ends up being Drake May's best buddy. You know what I mean? Kind of just one of those things. I know he's not going to do anything this year. Roman Wilson, we're tired of saying this about Pittsburgh, but when Pittsburgh gets a quarterback is when I'll start going in on Pittsburgh wide receivers.
Yeah.
I think the last team had Pickens, and I'm running a huge victory lap on that one. But yeah, I agree with you, and I think because of the age of some of these guys like Montgomery, and so on, that these are guys that you can trade. You can trade if they're useful. You can trade them for picks. Especially when, like I was saying about the 25 draft, having so many running backs, like at the end of last season, I sold all my running backs for first round picks next year, not this year, next year.
Okay.
because I was rebuilding, because that's all
Yeah.
I do. I'm forever rebuilding. But that's kind of how I like it. That's what I do. I rebuild, and then when the team gets good, I leave. Which I know makes no sense, but that's the most fun part for me.
Yeah.
So knowing that there's running backs come out, and you're still going to have Pacheco. Obviously, you're not going to dish him off because he's on IR, but try to move some of these guys for picks, even if they're not first rounders, because what's Josh Jacobs really going to do for you beyond this year? To be honest, he'll still be the starter in Green Bay, but he's also going to have Marshawn Lloyd start taking some of his snaps, and so this team still has a long way to go. It's got a lot of pieces, but they're not cohesive. But quarterback is definitely a need.
Yeah, this team needs to be torn down.
Yeah,
Jacob's got to go. Montgomery's got to go. I think I'm probably hanging on to Ayuk if I can. Maybe he's kind of like a building block piece for you.
right.
Yeah, this. I
I
mean,
think
even
I'll tell you what. I think within a week of them saying Chubb and Hawkinson are back, those guys go on the trade block,
yeah, Cooper Cup possibly as well.
because somebody's going to be like, dude, they can take me through the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. But yeah, this team, are we holding out hope for Luke Musgrave? I don't know if you've ever liked him. I kind of liked Musgrave. I thought maybe we could get a breakout from Musgrave. He's got all that athleticism, and
Yeah,
that's like the main ingredient in the recipe of a breakout tight end.
yeah.
But it seems like Tucker Kraft is gonna be the guy there.
I know, and of the two of them, I much preferred Musgrave, much preferred. And then this year, it's just been kind of back asswards, and part of that is just Green Bay just has so many people to catch the ball. You know what I mean? It's like you have to be in the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
just to even get a pass looked your way. So yeah, I'm not sure about Musgrave either, but if he strings together a couple of good games, if I thought there was some other way I could draft a good tight end or score one from somebody, I'd probably move him if somebody thought they could use him for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think he might be kind of on that maybe like David Njoku career trajectory where it takes 4-5 years before he really breaks out.
Right. Well, maybe he'll get Joe Flacco, because that's what David and Joker needed. Because Deshaun Watson hates throwing to tight ends. So, all right. Yeah, I think this is a teardown.
Absolutely. So we did get an update on the team name pronunciation, and it is God Shines.
God shines. Well, great. Now I feel guilty for saying it was a bad team.
I just feel dumb that we didn't connect the dots and see that there. I mean,
Yeah, I'm usually pretty good at like spotting vanity plates and figuring out what they are.
yeah, we missed that one for sure.
All
All
right.
right. Let's go on to
God is not shining on that team.
No. Let's move on to Dirty Kuntz.
Dirty, come on, say it.
No, I think so. Remember the tight end? What's his name? Kuntz. I mean, if you want to say Kuntz, you can.
I think it's Dirty Kuntz.
But I believe the pronunciation of the tight end, Kuntz,
We'll
spelled with a K, is Kuntz.
We'll call it a double entendre, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely meant to not be Kuntz. Right. All right, so we started to get maybe some talent here on some of these rosters, I hope, because these first 5 teams or so are not.
Oh, this is. I'm just looking down this one. I like this already.
I think we finally have some talent. Got somebody who knows how to play fantasy football in this league. Finally, Patrick Mahomes, Jameer Gibbs, James Conner, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy. This team is building around those young, strong wide receivers.
Yep.
Hunter Henry, Josh Palmer, Brian Robinson, Jaden Daniels. We got the 10th year breakout Derek Carr, Dak Prescott, Deontay Foreman, Cam Akers, Gainwell, Pierce, T. Higgins is sitting in the wings there. He's going to come back this week. He's got a fantastic matchup against the Commanders, first game back. Maybe we get something from Higgins in his season debut. We got KJ Osborne, Elijah Moore, Jahan Dotson, Jordan Addison, Evan Ingram, Ferguson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire on injury reserve. Taxi squad is looking like Chris Rodriguez, Emmanuel Wilson, Joe Milton, Spencer Rattler, Will Shipley, and Bryce Young. So the taxi squad is as underwhelming as the starting lineup is good.
Well, I will say that I really like Emmanuel Wilson and Will Shipley. The question is whether or not they're going to get the opportunity they deserve.
I like Shipley.
I think Shipley should be the backup, not what's his face. It's been there for
Gainwell, yeah. I think eventually he will be.
Yeah, and Wilson, I love this year in redraft, but it's partially because Lloyd just can't get healthy. So he's kind of got to grab opportunity by the horns to make it a training camp. But yeah, other than that, on the taxi squad. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of guys. It's so hard going from redraft into dynasty because I'd be like, cut him, cut him, cut him, cut him, cut him. But you can't really do that because there's not that many people out there.
I think we might have spoke too soon when we first started going to the top of this roster here. It's not quite as strong as I was expecting.
No, but it does have building blocks.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Between
in the right places too.
Jaden and Patrick is a great spot to start at quarterback, and he's got depth.
And you got depth. Yeah. You're set there. You're good.
And so you're good on quarterback. Worthy and Thomas. Worthy is going to be kind of a boom or bust guy for his career, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get the consistency you want. I think Brian Thomas you can, and I think Marvin Harrison you can. So that's a good trio of young wide receivers you're going to have.
Between the three of them, you're probably getting a spike week every week. One of them is going to go
off. Josh Palmer, not a big fan of, at least not this season. But I mentioned that earlier. He seems to have one thing, and it's run straight, which can be useful at times. Just ask Jahan Dotson. But yeah, Brian Robinson, the flex, not bad. Tight end is an issue here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're okay. Ingram and Ferguson.
Oh, and Ferguson. Okay.
Because I was thinking the same thing as you. I saw Hunter Henry.
I saw Hunter Henry, and I was like, well, who the hell else is there?
It was good for you last week, but that might be trade block.
Well, he was good for you last week, but then
you're right. You're right. Yeah. What did he do? A goose egg? I don't remember seeing him catch anything.
Maybe 2 catches.
3 targets, 2 catches, 9 yards. That was the clear and obvious put this guy on the block performance. 100 yards. I think it was the first time in 5 years he's had a 100-yard game, and second time.
Yeah, if anybody was able to move him between Monday and Thursday, those are the luckiest people in the world right now.
Those are the people who are paying attention. Those are the people who are active in these leagues. We need the activity. You're missing out on those windows if you're not active.
I'd like to say for anybody that's in the chat too, I'm just out of curiosity how long this league has been going on.
2 years. This is the second year.
This is year 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, right on. Well, I mean, this is, again, it's when he's got all his health, Ingram's not out for good. Addison's not out for good. Ferguson's banged up, but he's not bad. I like, believe it or not, I like Elijah Moore. T. Higgins is coming back. And then he's got potential fill-ins for bye weeks with, DeAndre Foreman, I think, and Cam Akers, maybe, depending on injuries, although he's got Pierce too. So the starting lineup is probably going to be good enough to get you, I'd say, pretty close to 500. Just with the Mahomes, Gibbs, Daniels, Thomas, Harrison, somebody, and Xavier Worthy boom week here and there. But I don't think this team's going to make the playoffs or anything.
This team's a year away. It's a year away. They finished second last year, so there definitely was probably some rebuilding going on in the offseason, I would assume, because we got all these rookie wide receivers going on here, plus
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels as well. So I'm guessing they probably finished second last year, maybe saw the end of that run coming and put some guys on the block a little bit younger, which I don't mind doing that.
Right.
But I think we do need to have this guy's it looks like he's a Penn State fan based on his logo here. I think he really needs to come to the realization that Jahan Dotson is never going to happen.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I was so sure this year it was good. It was the make or break. And when he got traded to Philly, I was like, break.
It's over. Yeah. You're not gonna trade your former first round pick 2 years ago to a team within your division.
Right.
If there's any chance he's good.
No.
He stinks. It's over.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so again, still a little work to do, but got some heavy hitter pieces there.
Let's go on to grit splits.
Okay.
Start at the top here with Joe Burrow, a quarterback. Nice little bounce back in week 2 there for Burrow. Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Chris Olave, Drake London, DK Metcalf had a boom week in week 2. Cole Kmet, Jaden Reed, J.K. Dobbins leading the NFL in rushing yards right now. Trevor Lawrence, Bo Nix, Antonio Gibson, Jerome Ford, Jalen Polk, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Tolbert, the never going to happen Treylon Burks, Alec Pierce, Marvin Mims, Josh Downs, Noah Fant, Chiga Kwankwo. Taxi Squad is looking like Trey Tucker, Merrick Prince, Jaleel McLaughlin, Jordan Travis, Jatavian Sanders, Ryan Flournoy, and the previously mentioned Tucker Kraft.
Man, some of these taxi squads are really bad.
Yeah, this one might take the lead there on bad taxi squads.
Yeah. Yeah, like Ryan Flournoy is never going to happen. He doesn't have the talent. Yeah, this is interesting. Once again, this is another team that's got some guys that I like. It's just a question of whether they can all come together to do any damage. When we look at these teams, it's really easy to see, like, okay, you can put together a solid starting lineup, and boy, you hit the jackpot with Dobbins there. And Jaden Reed is a little hot and cold sometimes. And Drake London, we haven't seen the best of yet this season, or Olave for that matter. Which I guess would explain why you're 1-1 and not 2-0, because the starting lineup's good enough to be 2-0, I think, depending on who you played. But when we say that the starting lineup looks great, and then you go to the bench.
Yes, thank you. This team is so fragile.
Yeah. And there's just not the depth you want on the bench. There's not. I think Tolbert and Jeudy are probably, well, and Jerome
Ford. Yeah.
They're probably reasonably good starter plays,
Mm-hmm.
like for a while, not just a plug and play on a bye week.
Yeah.
You could play those as starters if somebody got hurt, but none of the other ones. Alec Pierce is going to lose all his snaps to Josh Downs, and I like Josh Downs a lot. The unfortunate thing is Anthony Richardson is his quarterback, and you just can't depend on any of the wide receivers in Indianapolis right now.
Yeah.
But so yeah, the bench is just kind of haphazard. So I don't know, man. Moving forward, Taylor for a running back is starting to get up there a little bit. You're young at receiver with Olave in London. Metcalf is up there. Jaden Reed is young, but once again, there's so many weapons there. Dobbins is he's for considering how little wear he has on his tires. I'd consider him young. So, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, my thoughts are this team is about as fragile as Joe Burrow.
Hey, come on, man.
I mean, this team, if everything goes right, they can be a contender, a playoff contender, but we know how fantasy football goes. There's injuries, there's guys who underperform. It's just you're hoping Drake London happens. We still haven't really seen it happen. If he doesn't score that touchdown at the end of Monday night, we're looking and panicking about Drake London right now.
Right.
Cole Kmet is done.
Yeah, probably.
He's done. J.K. Dobbins is playing well right now, but he still hasn't even played 50% of the snaps in any game yet. He's played the Raiders and he's played the Panthers. Things are going to get tougher for J.K. Dobbins, and then that's if he is somehow able to stay healthy, which he's never been able to. And then, like you just talked about, once guys get injured, once we have bye weeks, who are we plugging into this lineup? There's not many options here.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, you don't want Bo Nix in there.
No, you don't.
And before the season, I was high on Bo Nix.
I remember.
The problem is Bo Nix still just looks like a college quarterback. He was the most pro-ready quarterback, but now he's just doing all the same things he did in college. It doesn't look like he's taken any steps.
Well, I mean, when you play in college for about 8 years, you probably have peaked already in college.
Right.
Whereas someone like Drake May, for example, he's coming into the league at 21 years old. You expect athletically his development as a quarterback, he's going to peak in the NFL. Bo Nix has already peaked. He's done. This is as good as you're going to get. Bo Nix.
Well, I will say if you lose Joe Burrow, at least you have Jake Browning.
That's true.
And Joe Burrow is not fragile. They've been like mostly freak accidents.
Okay.
Dude, he had an appendectomy.
Yeah. I know. Okay. ACL and wrist.
Well, yeah, somebody rolled into the ACL and the wrist thing was a wrist thing. It wasn't like poor conditioning.
Well, let's let him get through the season and see what happens.
All right. Well, the last time he got through a season, he was in the Super Bowl.
That's right, and he lost. All right.
Can you guys tell I'm a Cincinnati fan by any chance?
Well, if Schultz was on the show, I'd be saying the same thing about Trevor Lawrence. So just to get her going,
right?
Which we might actually have to have a serious conversation about Trevor Lawrence pretty soon because he's all hype and no production.
Yeah, it's. I tell you what, I think Brian Thomas Jr. has more work to do than just catching the football. He's liable to be the one that saves Trevor Lawrence's job.
Yeah, I mean, I think the paycheck right now is saving Trevor Lawrence's job, but
yeah,
I cannot believe Trevor Lawrence is the highest paid player in the NFL right now. Like, how is that? How? It's. I hope Schulte doesn't watch the show, but he's never gonna come back. But man, this. I don't know, man. He's like your.
All of a sudden, he's going to pop in backstage. And you're
I know.
like, no.
Oh, he's got Trevor Lawrence posters behind him, and it's like he's got a little bobblehead going. I don't know, man. I think Trevor Lawrence is like the Josh Palmer of quarterbacks. He's just like your league average. That's all he is. He's just fine. He's never gonna be a star. He'll get you through, but he's not gonna be a difference maker.
When he looks good, when he has that good game, when he looks good, he looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, you get him in slow motion, running out of the tunnel, that hair flowing. That's about as good as it is. That's where it ends. That's where it ends.
All right, Grit Splits gets extra points for having Trevor Lawrence's flowing hair on the team.
Yeah, you got Trevor Lawrence's flowing hair, and you got Joe Burrow's. I don't know what he's got going on.
Let's guess who's back. Back again. All right, let's move on to ye old Peruvian neckties.
Can we get a good team, please?
Peruvian necktie, is that that's like a gang term, isn't it? Or a mob term, isn't it?
You're asking the wrong guy about gangs.
Not gang, but like mob or mafia. Peruvian necktie. I know what that is. Or it's like they hang somebody or something. I don't remember.
Couldn't tell.
I know it's not the same thing as a pearl necklace. Okay, so we got Josh Allen at quarterback, Bijan Robinson, Rashad White, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Dallas Goedert, Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, and Lamar. So we got Lamar and Josh at quarterback. Backed up by Brock Purdy and Will Levis. We've got Dylan Laube, the second oldest NFL rookie ever. Samaje Perine, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Jeff Wilson, the oldest football player ever, Mac Hollins, Jacoby Myers, DJ Njoku. There's no Joe Flacco on this team. Atkins, who's filling in for Njoku. Cade Otton and Greg Dulcich.
8 target Greg Dulcich.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. 8 targets. I don't think he caught any of them, but 8 targets.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, trade him to the guy with Knicks. Puka is on the IR. Then we got Davis Allen, Malik Cunningham, Emari DeMarcado, Xavier Gibson, Troy Franklin, Trey Palmer, and the coffee table himself, Deuce Vaughn.
I'm going to bring up this comment back on the screen. It says, your taxi squads suck, because we can replay that for this one.
Right. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, okay, their bench is large.
Yeah.
The bench is really big. You know what I mean? So
it's going to be hard to have a strong taxi squad when your bench is this.
I'll tell you what, I would consider for your third year making taxi rookies only. If for no other reason than just to make somebody available on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that if somebody wanted a place to set their drink, so they went out and got Deuce Vaughn. I don't know. What do you think of this team, Alex?
Well, first I want to give you an update on Peruvian neckties.
Okay.
I was not listening pretty much 90% of what you were saying because I was looking up Peruvian neckties.
Okay, great.
We weren't even close. Not even close. So a Peruvian necktie, I'm reading this from Google. Peruvian necktie is one of the few head and arm chokes that use your legs for the submission, using all four limbs to control the opponent's neck, head, and upper body. So it's like a jiu-jitsu type move here, not a gang.
Okay, I didn't mean gang, I meant mafia. And it sounds like there could be, a mafia over there that uses it.
Maybe the mafia is using Peruvian neckties. I don't know.
The Eagles fan says we've got a killer in our league. I'm assuming that's an Eagles fan.
He is an Eagles fan, yes. Also hates Jahan Dotson though. All right, let's this team, like I said, I wasn't really paying attention because I was looking up Peruvian neckties.
Would you like me to go down it again?
No. I'll be good. But I do think the starting lineup looks pretty strong with Josh Allen and Bijan. I still think Rachaad White is going to give you at least RB2 production. He's an elite receiver out of that backfield. Yeah. Even if he's inefficient as a runner and loses some carries to Bucky Irving, he's going to catch. He's a guy who can catch 5-6 passes every week.
Right.
Anytime the Bucs are trailing, Baker Mayfield is just going to check it down to Rachaad White.
Yep.
Wide receiver, we're pretty old with Evans and Diggs. I think Diggs I'm putting on the block. I would have put him on the block after week 1 when he had those 2 touchdowns because 2 touchdowns with 33 yards and a low average target depth. Well, I think he's going to be the odd man out.
I would assume also that Diggs is in there because he's got Puka on
the IR. Okay. Okay. At least he does have Nico Collins here as well. But I mean, you're really strong at wide receiver with Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, also Puka on the bench. I mean, on the IR. So we're in good shape there for sure. I mean, we're top heavy at running back as well with Bijan. I mean, we've got Aaron Jones on the bench, so he'll be able to fill in any injuries, any bye weeks. Aaron Jones is having a pretty decent start to the season. He's got a decent role going there. I like Dylan Lobby as a deep stash.
I don't.
No? Not a Lobby fan?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're good at quarterback with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
This team, I think this is the first team that I can confidently say is going to contend for a championship in this league this year.
Yeah, I agree.
And we got all the picks. So we got first, second, third. Don't have a fourth, but who cares? 2 seconds in 2026. This team's in real good condition, I think, for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, there is a little bit of depth on the bench, which is
we can get better on the bench, but we can get a little better on the bench, I think, but it's not bad.
Yeah. I'm just saying that it's a good start. You know what I mean? And there are some guys to plug in. The tight end position is very weak. Unless Deshaun Watson has a change of heart and starts throwing to Njoku, I would actually consider packaging Njoku and a draft pick, a good draft pick to tier up if you can. But I know how people are with tight ends. I know that's easier said than done. But Dulcich, I'm glad he's getting targets. I actually am, because I rooted for him for quite a while to do something, and he just never did. And I've just never been a Cade Otton fan either.
Well, Dulcich had a nice rookie season. He was a ton of injuries last year, which really killed him.
Yeah.
He's healthy. I mean, that's the first step.
Yeah, that's a big thing for him.
Right. Now we need to get some decent quarterback play. I don't know if that's going to come in the form of Bo Nix or not, but
right.
We'll see what happens. At least the targets are there. Not a lot of target competition outside of Cortland Sutton there in that offense either. What I would do, my plan here with this team is I'm kind of, if things start to go south at all at some point during this season, if you have a couple of injuries that start stacking up, we need to start forward thinking a little bit with Mike Evans, with Stephon Diggs, with Calvin Ridley, with some of these older wide receivers who are still productive.
Right.
Like I said, if things go south and you're not really a strong contender anymore for some reason, you got some injuries, whatever, these are the guys I'm putting on the block, trying to get younger, moving forward so that we can sustain this success going into future seasons down the line. Because I think this team, it definitely has the pieces to build on with Lamar, with Josh Allen, with Bijan Robinson, with Nico Collins. We can build around those guys. I think we can be a contender for a long time, especially because you got all your draft picks.
Yeah, and I also, conversely think that if this team is somehow hovering right around, third or fourth, as we're getting closer to the playoffs, man, this might be this. It might be a candidate to empty your picks.
Yeah, this
Um,
absolutely. This could go either way. This is your
just to completely empty the chamber. You got 2 firsts in 26, got a first next year. You've got 226 seconds. You're going to be able to get pieces out of that, and they don't have to move directly into your starting lineup, but you need guys that are on the level or pretty close to the level as starting lineup quality on another team. So that, because the only way you win in Dynasty is with depth. I mean, because otherwise, one injury in your starting lineup in the playoffs and you're toast if it's the wrong guy. So, yeah, I mean, it might be the thing if you're sitting in third place and the playoffs are closing in a couple weeks, then I'd say empty the chamber.
yeah.
You got the picks to do it.
I believe when I was looking at this league, preparing, I believe the trade deadline's in week 12. So starting like week 9, week 10, you're starting to make a decision. Is this team going to be a championship contender?
Right.
The answer is yes, I agree. I think it's time to get aggressive and start upgrading all over this roster and really go in and make a run.
Yeah, and we already said, there's at least 3 teams, possibly 4 at the bottom who are going to want a better draft pick.
Yeah.
Who none of them have no good players.
Right.
They've got good players.
Yeah.
So, start picking through and see who you like and check playoff schedules and see what you can empty picks on.
Yep. Yeah, this team finished third last year.
I can see
They're
why.
probably looking. They're probably looking about the same right now if they don't make any moves.
Right.
So I think, like you said, a couple moves could get them to number 1. All
Yeah,
right.
barring injury. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. All right. Let's move on to the New York Yankees.
All right.
You want to take the lead on this team?
Sure. Since you were are you going to look up Peruvian necktie this time?
Oh, no, but I forgot that you did the last one, but that's all right.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'll do it.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts with his running back Saquon, Jordan Mason from San Francisco, Rashid Shaheed, who's been a breath of fresh air, Terry McLaurin, who's been a breath of smoggy air, Rashid Rice, and Travis Kelce. Tony Pollard, who's looked pretty good between the tackles. Roma Dunze, that's a score. Jared Goff, and then Aiden O'Connell. Okay. And Roshan, Mixon, Madison, Jalen Warren. I always say his name wrong. Isaac from the Jets. DeAndre. Who the hell is N. Brown?
Noah Brown.
Oh, Noah. That's right. I forgot Noah got traded or got signed. Romeo Doubs, Watson, Demario Douglas, uh, Ben Sinnott, and Dalton Schultz. It's got Hollywood on IR. You might as well just leave him there till 28. Because he's always going to be hurt for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Penix waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Uh, Ike Davis from the Jets. Frank Gore Jr., Cade Stover, Jacob Cowing, Wilson from Philadelphia, and Luke McCaffrey.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I like Jalen Hurts at quarterback here. It could, with Barkley. Obviously, you hit that lottery ticket with Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
I am practicing patience with Terry McLaurin. I think things will get going. I mean, he's overcome quarterback play his entire career. So even if Jaden Daniels isn't great, I think we'll still get Terry McLaurin. We'll get him going. Cliff Kingsbury just said this week that he's focused on trying to get Terry McLaurin going in that offense. Rashee Rice, I mean, he's been fantastic. He's getting a ton of volume in that offense right now. And if you're getting volume in the Patrick Mahomes offense, we're in pretty good shape, if I can talk. Now, who's not getting volume in the Kansas City offense is Travis Kelce. It might be over for Travis Kelce.
Well, I'll say this. I'll give it the next couple weeks now that Pacheco's gone.
Yeah.
Because they were leaning on the run more than they typically have in the past. So perhaps that's going to mean a lot more short dumps over the middle. But we'll see.
Yeah, it's not been good so far for Travis Kelce. I don't know. We'll see. Age cliff comes for everybody.
Right.
I do like Odunze. I think you mentioned that as well. Odunze. At some point, he's going to break in. I think it's going to happen this year. Just a matter of time. It's just a matter of getting Caleb Williams comfortable in that offense. And I think the offensive line playing a little bit better, get him some better protection back there. And I think by the second half of the season, we're going to start to see Rome Odunze breaking out, maybe to the similar level that we've seen with Malik Neighbors, with Marvin Harrison Jr. As long as Caleb gets going, we're gonna get Rome Odunze going.
Do you know where this team finished last year?
Yes. Let me pull it up. This team finished 6th, so they're a middle of the pack team.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering where they probably got Odunze. So I guess a bunch of quarterbacks came off the board.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising. I was just curious. The bench is a bunch of guys that are handcuffs that could legitimately be starters in this league, outside of Mixon, who is a starter. Madison has looked better than Zamir so far this year, and I can't believe I'm saying that because Madison's terrible.
He's awful.
But he has. I mean, and I think he outsnapped him last week.
No,
Jaylen Warren, if anything ever happened to Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren would get an uptick, but probably not for long because he's not really built for that many carries. I guess that's really, and Roshan, I like better than Herbert. I really feel like he should be the backup in Chicago, and I kind of thought he could take over from Swift, but obviously we need another quarterback here, big time.
Yeah, we need a QB3 for 2024 for sure. I do like Penix sitting there on the taxi squad. I love stashing Penix. I've in a lot of leagues I've tried to stash Penix because the second that he is going to be the starter, even if it's a Kirk Cousins injury, his value is going to go through the roof. So
Oh
even
yeah.
if you don't like Penix, even if you don't like him, if you don't like him or believe in him or want him for the long term, just having him on your roster is a guaranteed value spike at some point.
Right.
Because whenever that time comes, whether it's this year or next year or whenever, his value is going to spike. And if you want to trade him, that's the time to do it. Or you just have a quarterback, ready to go, on your bench.
Right.
That could become something. He's got weapons in that offense whenever that time comes.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, for this season, it's just, I mean, you're going to end up playing somebody else at flex, unless O'Connell for some reason takes that job from Minshew. But right now, it doesn't really look like that's headed that way. But Goff every year surprises. He always performs above what the preseason expectations were. Although people are starting to catch on to that now. I think he was quarterback 9 last year.
Well, I think this is the year he's actually had any preseason expectations. And I think it would be fair to say at this point, he's kind of fallen short of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but thank God for Jameson Williams. Um, but also, you're going to have to start, Penix is great to have. Hurts is great to have. But you're going to need to build up that quarterback core because Goff is not going to be around forever. He's up there, and O'Connell's probably going to be out of a job after this season. Other than just being a traveling backup. So that's going to be something to really, really concentrate on. I just, I don't know. I still feel like this team is in the way these guys are performing right now, outside of McLaurin and Kelsey, who I agree will both get better, and Odunze. I feel like you could ride that to like a 4th place finish. But realistically, Jordan Mason's going to come back to earth. Rashid Shaheed's going to come back to earth when Olave starts perking up. I just don't. I don't see this team finishing much better than middle of the pack again. So you're going to have some big decisions to make as to whether to sell everything or, sell some of the older dudes that'll be, positive for somebody else in the long run just to get picks for next year.
Yeah, I would say I mostly agree. This is probably a 4th, 5th place team. I mean, you're 2-0. You got to 2-0. I mean, you can. It's really going to come down to you're going to lose Mason at some point because McCaffrey's going to come back.
Right.
And like you said, Shaheed, he's not going to give you what he's giving you. That's not going to happen every week. He's going to be a guy who, he might give you that one week, and the next week he's going to give you 3 points.
Yeah, he's going to be like Xavier. He's going to be like Xavier Worthy.
Right. He's going to be that spike week king, which is fine. I like to have a couple of those guys on my roster. You need the spike weeks, but when you're also not getting the production yet from Terry McLaurin, Travis Kelce, then we start to worry. But however, if Terry McLaurin does get it going, if something happens and Christian McCaffrey is not back at all this year, and Rome Odunze has that second half breakout, this could be a team that peaks in the second half and could make a run. But that's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs. And usually when you have a lot of ifs, it really doesn't work out. But there's a story you could write.
Yeah, because you would need those things to happen, and you would need some of these guys that have overperformed early to continue to do so. And that's going to be where it's difficult.
Well, so another thing, like whenever McCaffrey does come back, at least you have Joe Mixon as long as he's healthy. You do have Jalen Warren, so you're not toast at the RB2 spot.
Right.
Once you lose Mason. So I think you're all right. But I just don't see like the difference makers. You got Hurts and Barkley as your difference makers. After that, I'm really unsure if this team has enough to make a true championship run. They'll definitely be in it, but I don't know if they can get to the end.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the top two teams. Let's go to Big TDs. This is the defending champion.
Big TDs.
Let's go. So in week 1, we saw Anthony Richardson throw a few big TDs, and then he face planted in week 2.
Yep.
Brees Hall, Zach Charbonnet, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jameson Williams, who's having a nice breakout, Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, who's been fantastic, Devin Singletary. And then we get depressed when we get to Skylar Thompson as your quarterback in the Superflex spot. But that is because you lost Tua. So hopefully we'll get Tua back at some point. We also have Russell Wilson on the bench. Some reason we have Ryan Tannehill. Now we got Joe Flacco.
The Tannehill was also a Tua contingency.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't think he's going back to Miami at any point.
No, they've already pretty much put the kibosh on that.
Yeah. But I mean, you got the ultimate quarterback handcuff with Joe Flacco behind Anthony Richardson.
That's right, but he doesn't have David Njoku.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. Kenneth Walker, Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, Wandell Robinson, Adonai Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey, Brandon Cooks, George Kittle, who's out for this week, which really sucks. He was going to have the week of all weeks.
Yeah.
No Debo, no McCaffrey, and he's playing the Rams. This was going to be such a great week for George Kittle. I'm so upset.
That's why it's going to be a great week for Juwan Jennings.
Maybe blocking. He's going to have a great week blocking, man. He's going to have a great week blocking.
No, bucket. Big week for Jennings.
Gesicki having a little bit of a nice start here with Joe Burrow. Odell Beckham, for some reason, is on this team under reserve.
For some reason, is in the NFL.
Yeah, right. If it wasn't for that one catch, he would have been gone 5 years ago.
Right.
Tua in the IR spot, where really this team really needs Tua to come back at some point.
Yes.
AJ Dillon out for the year. Eric Gray on the taxi squad along with Jonathan Mingo, A.T. Perry, Rasheen Ali, Braylon Allen. I suspect Braylon Allen is not going to be on the taxi squad on this team by the end of the year. He's going to be activated at some point from this taxi squad. Bucky Irving, you might be able to say the same thing about him. And then we got Jalen Hyatt, who I don't think has any catches through the first 2 weeks because he is just not good at football.
No.
All right. Either is this quarterback, by the way, which doesn't help things. So what stands out to you about this team? I think we've got
first of all, it's got the best taxi of any of the teams we've got so far.
Yes,
and that's actually not saying very much. Because I'm not really excited about A.T. Perry or Jalen Hyatt. And Gray is just a handcuff at best or a returner.
He's the handcuff to the handcuff.
Right.
But at least we have real players on this taxi squad.
Yeah, I actually do like Rasheen Ali. I think he has a future in this league.
Although I think the Justice Hill extension kind of hurts his outlook a little bit, unfortunately.
It does. That and when Keaton Mitchell comes back too.
Right. Yeah.
But Braylon Allen's huge. And Bucky Irving's pretty good. Bucky Irving is like Rachaad White light, but he should be able to get more carries as the years go by. He needs Tua to come back, and frankly, I don't think he's gonna. I know they only put him on short-term IR just so that they could stop answering questions about it. I just have a really hard time believing he's not going to sit out this season. I personally am of the opinion that he should sit out of football forever, but But I'm not him, so I
Right.
can't rightly say that. Um, Jasicki looks all right. I think he's going to lose out a lot with Higgins back, because a lot of what he's been doing is lining up in the slot, like where a slot receiver would
Mhm.
be, so that uh, Yosivash can line up on the outside. And with Higgins back, that moves Yoshivas back to the slot.
That's a good
So
point.
Jasicki will be, I mean, he's good to have like as a plug-in player. But it's going to be all or nothing. He's not going to
Right.
be like 5 catches for 50 yards every week. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But that won't matter when you finally get Kittle back. It's just got a lot of, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of guys that, well, maybe not a lot, but a few guys that are consistently getting banged up. George Kittle's banged up every year. Um, Kenneth Walker is banged up every year. Um, yeah, maybe that's it, really, I guess.
I gotta tell you, I fucking love this team. I love this team so much.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's set up in a really good situation. Even as much as I dislike Anthony Richardson, I still can appreciate if he can get it together, how far he can take this team. I'm really worried about the quarterback situation, though.
Yeah, I think. I mean, you look at Anthony Richardson. It's easy to forget that he's played 6 games in his career, and in half of those he didn't even finish the game. He's thrown 137 career pass attempts. This is a rookie. This is a rookie in his 7th game. We're not even halfway through his rookie season yet, essentially.
Right.
Um, I think we're gonna get. I think what we saw in week 1, that was why we were drafting him, or I was drafting him. I think we're gonna get that more often than we do week 2, but we're gonna get those week 2s. We're gonna get those week 2s, and I think that's part of the deal with Anthony Richardson. You're gonna
Right.
get some of those week 2s, but he's a guy who can win you a week, just like Lamar Jackson can, just like Jalen Hurts can, just like Josh Allen can. I want those difference makers on my team, and if I have to take a 12-point week, I'm going to take a 12-point week. But I'm in it for the 30, 40, 50-point weeks.
Yeah, I mean, just hope for no more injuries,
Yeah, yeah,
especially to him. Because if Anthony Richardson gets hurt on this team, you're toast.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like you're
I agree.
done. You're looking to next year. Pack your golf clubs.
Yeah, exactly. But if this team's healthy, even mostly healthy, because you can afford a few injuries on the team outside of quarterback. You're gonna have a really, really good shot. Brees Hall. I mean, you've got Brees Hall, you got CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. We're getting the breakout from Jamison Williams. Trey McBride has had kind of a slow start.
Like
However, the
everybody.
role the role has been elite. He's had 29% target share, 28% target share every week. Kyler Murray's played pretty decent. I have no worries that Trey McBride is going to be a top 3 tight end, just like we were hoping for this year. My prediction, I think he's going to finish the year as the tight end 1,
I,
based on
I,
how
I
things are
think
going.
Bowers is going to be up there too.
And then
I mean,
exactly, you got Bowers.
Bowers is who we thought he was.
Yeah,
He's a fucking unicorn.
yeah.
Um,
We
you
were we
know,
were worried about the quarterback, but it seems pretty obvious that Gardner Minshew is going to lock in on Brock Bowers.
well, my
Even
idea was always like, if you're really worried about an inefficient quarterback, then you would think that having a good tight end is probably the way to go.
yeah.
Because the guy's going to want to dump it off instead of trying to go for gold every time.
But what's impressed me the most about Brock Bowers is not only is he performing right away as a rookie tight end, where we're always like, oh my god, these rookie tight ends, they take forever to break out. That's not happening with Brock Bowers, but he's also commanding a ton of targets in
Yeah,
an offense that also includes Devontae Adams,
right.
and he's still being the guy there. So that
And
is incredibly
Jacoby
impressive.
Jacoby Myers had a ton of targets last year.
Jacoby Myers is a good player. He's a good wide receiver
Yeah.
too. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, there's like you said about Braylon Allen. Um, I mean, I do expect also that he's going to end up coming off that taxi squad, and I'll be damned if at some point this year he doesn't end up sliding into a flex like where Singletary is, and you play Hall and Allen because they're both going to get touches, tons of them, and they're
And I,
both going to get passes.
and I think if all your tight ends are healthy, you're probably starting all the tight ends. You're gonna start McBride, you're gonna start Bowers, you're gonna start Kittle all together.
Yeah, yeah. This is good. I mean, the way he set it up here with Brees Hall and Braylon Allen, with Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. You have Charbonnet on a team. You're not that excited about him. But this is why you have him. You have him for these reasons because Kenneth Walker is always banged up. So you've already got his backup who can plug and play as a reception machine, when you need him to, or he can step right into a starting role and you're going to get points out of him.
Yeah. And I mean, look, we talked about most of the teams up to this point have had weak benches. This team has a really strong depth, which of course has played out really well for them so far because they have so many injuries.
Right.
And then you're also looking at all the talent on this roster.
Yeah.
And there's like maybe 3 players over the age of 26. So this team is set for a long time.
Yeah, this is I would expect this team to be potentially a top 2 team as long as the injury bug doesn't bite any harder.
Yeah.
And then, when it comes trading time, same thing I said about the other guy. Unload the chamber. Go get yourself a quarterback that can take you through the playoffs in that QB2 position. Who knows? Skylar Thompson actually was mobile in college. I'm like, if he actually shows out, I'm here for it, man. I don't think he's gonna, but
this team had Mike White, who has shown to be a quality backup quarterback in the NFL. And they moved on from Mike White, and they kept Skylar Thompson. And last time we saw Skylar Thompson, he was a rookie. So there's a chance that he can at least do something for you here in the meantime while you're waiting to either get Tua back or make a move for another quarterback. But yeah, I love this team. This absolutely far and away my favorite team so far.
Yeah,
I think we got one more to go.
Yeah, this one is this is definitely a contender.
Baby Yaga is the next team up. This is the Commissioner's team, I believe.
It is, and I glanced at this one earlier, as a matter of fact.
He let's see where he finished last year. He finished 7th last year, so it looks like he's making some strides. He's got Kyler Murray.
Who was first last year?
First last year was the team we just talked about, Big TDs.
Okay.
I think he's going to be first again this year, but Kyler Murray at quarterback. We got Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara. Kamara has been fantastic. He looks like he hasn't aged a bit.
Yep.
Garrett Wilson, still waiting for him to get on the same page as Aaron Rodgers, but I think that time can come, and I think whenever it does come, we're going to get the guy that we were hoping Garrett Wilson would be.
Yeah, and he hasn't been horrible.
No, he hasn't. No.
It's just he hasn't been, as Garrett Wilson as he can be.
Right, and he's been close on a few of those back shoulders the other night. They just weren't on the same page. If they were on the same page, they would have connected. He would have, instead of 5 catches for 33 yards, he would have had 8 catches for 75 yards.
Right.
But at least he got the touchdown to kind of keep you afloat there. Tyreek Hill, we're hoping that Skylar Thompson can continue to fuel him. I think rather than Tyreek Hill being, a top 3 wide receiver, I think we're going to get more like the wide receiver 8, wide receiver 10 range from him, but that's still fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown, He's fantastic. He had 19 targets last week, something crazy like that.
Yep.
Also got Sam Laporta, who's gotten off to a slow start, but I think that's part of the breakout from Jameson Williams. We're going to see a little bit less of Sam Laporta, but I still think he's a top 5 tight end. Devontae Smith, Malik Neighbors. Okay, I'm getting excited about this team a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really liking this.
When you scroll this far down to find Malik Neighbors, ooh, that gets my blood boiling a little bit. I love it. Love it. Baker Mayfield at the QB2 spot. He's been pretty solid so far. Cousins, Darnold, Tyler Huntley, Ezekiel Elliott, Justice Hill, Zach Moss, Ty Chandler, Chase Brown, Tyler Lockett, Deontay Johnson. Thank whatever for Andy Dalton.
Seriously.
Thank you for Andy Dalton. I never thought I'd say that, but Andy Dalton is going to save the day for Deontay Johnson. Dontavian Wicks got you the touchdown last week, but he still only ran about 50% of the routes. He's not a main character in this offense, unfortunately. Even though everybody wanted him to be, every fantasy analyst I ever met in the world was touting Dontavian Wicks.
Well, all but me.
Yeah, he's just not. He's a good player, but he's not a main character in this offense. It's not.
No, he's like a gadget guy.
Right. Yeah, he'll give you some decent weeks, but you're never gonna know when they're gonna be.
Right.
Pat Freiermuth, Isaiah Likely, Kendrick Bourne, Naheem Hines on the IR. I don't think we'll ever see Naheem Hines step on an NFL field again. Marshawn Lloyd, Carson Steele, Eric All, Jalen McMillan, Jalen Wright, Vaki, I don't know how to say his first name, Shione Vaki. Played a little bit of linebacker, played a little bit of running back in college. Now he's a full-time running back.
Sean Tucker.
Sean Tucker. But
awesome.
With that said, we laugh at Sean Tucker, but this is a really strong taxi squad. This is the first
easily
taxi squad that we've seen.
Easily the best taxi squad.
Yeah, and this is the guy who commented earlier who said, all your taxi squads suck. So at least he's talking the talk here because his is good.
Yeah.
All right. What do you think about this team overall?
Yeah, well, I'll do the same thing I did last time and go backwards. I love Marshawn Lloyd. When he is healthy, he's going to take carries. Green Bay loves running 2 running backs, man. I don't care how good Josh Jacobs is. Lloyd is going to get carries out of the deal.
Any concern that this is just going to end up being a Kendre Miller type rookie season for him, though? He's been injured and then back and then injured and back and then injured again.
I mean, how could you not? How could you not be worried about that? But even if not, I mean, this is dynasty, so let's hope he comes in healthy next year and he's all right.
I do love Lloyd. I'm right with you. I love Lloyd.
Yeah. Steele, we'll see what happens. I don't know how Kansas City's going to use him. He needs to stop dropping the ball. Eric All, Burrow is a big fan. So I have a feeling whenever Gesicki moves on, that might be the last time that Cincinnati signs a free agent tight end for a while to be their starter. Jalen McMillan, love him. Jalen Wright, really love him. I bet Jalen Wright's gonna be the first one off this taxi squad.
Yes.
Probably this year. Vaki, I've heard a lot about. I don't personally know a ton about him, so I can't speak to his abilities really. It's just somebody that was never on my radar. And Sean Tucker, I don't care about. But I agree. Naeem Hines, probably never going to play again. I mean, he just missed last season. You know what I mean?
I mean, even if he does play again, he's not going to be fantasy relevant.
No, he's probably going to return kicks and maybe if there's a lot of injuries left to come in and like catch a few balls on third down, but never anything you're going to want to start. Having Likely is pretty exciting, especially in a dynasty league.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will trade you tight ends in Dynasty. So, I've been putting out feelers trying to get Likely from people. Of course, I did that. And while they were thinking about it, he went out in week 1 and tore it up. So much for that idea. Fryermuth, I don't get excited about anymore. The one good thing is that they re-signed him, so they obviously believe in him. So for dynasty purposes, that's a good thing. And the backup is always hurt. So what's his name? Darnell Washington.
Darnell Washington. Yeah, touchdown last week.
Yeah, I think maybe he did, but he's got such horrible knees. They said like if he played a full 17-game season, that would probably be the last season he ever played.
He's more of like your Mercedes Lewis type. He's a blocker first. He'll catch some passes. He's definitely athletic, but more of like your blocker.
Yeah, Wick, strict player. Deontay, I agree with what you said about Dalton, especially because Dalton has always thrived when he had when he had a main number one guy. You looked at him with AJ Green. You looked at him, even before that, when he had one dude that he was supposed to concentrate on. Man, well, sometimes he forced the ball a little too much, but he also took us to playoffs for 7 years in a row.
To your point, Andy Dalton started one game last year. He threw the ball 58 times. He targeted Adam Thielen 14 times. He had 11 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's going to lock in on hopefully not Thielen, hopefully Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. I love Zach Moss. He's going to get better as the season goes on. The Bengals are always notorious for slow starts, but Zach Moss is definitely the guy, not Chase Brown.
Yeah.
Justice Hill, he was that big, sexy pickup at the beginning, but he'll be a plug and play. Same with Ezekiel Elliott, so inefficient. Tyler Huntley would be interesting if Skylar fails, and then you've got a stack with Huntley and Tyreek Hill. Who knows? But I like your depth at quarterback here, though, with Cousins, Darnold, Mayfield, who's looked really good, and Kyler, who everybody likes. And the starting lineup is just solid. It's just solid. Considering you're 2-0 and you only got one good game out of those two from Amon-Ra St. Brown. I don't think you've gotten any good games out of Laporta yet. Devontae Smith is a big pick of mine to have a huge season this year. And Neighbors is already, we all said he was going to get all the targets, and it didn't take long. I mean, because it's just Neighbors.
Who needs a good quarterback when you're just going to get all the targets?
Yeah, exactly. But you got to be a good wide receiver, and luckily he is.
Yeah.
So this is not only a great team for this season, but still reasonably young. There's a couple older pieces, but most of them are bench stashes. You're going to lose Tyreek Hill pretty soon, and Derrick Henry. But most of the rest of the starting lineup is okay. And then you've got, Zeke's not going to last much longer, and Lockett's not going to last much longer. In fact, Lockett's due a ton of money next year, and I don't think they're gonna keep him around.
Well, just in time for when you're losing Tyreek Hill and you're losing Derrick Henry and you're losing Alvin Kamara, that'll be around 2025, 2026, where we have 3 2026 first-round picks.
Oh, yeah, I love that. We're
going to backfill that easily.
And by then, you're going to have, McMillan, I think, is going to be a mainstay in your lineup at that point. I think Jalen Wright is going to be a mainstay in your lineup at that point. And Marshawn Lloyd might be a mainstay at that point. And never mind the fact that Between Eric All and Isaiah Likely, um, behind Laporta, I mean, you're basically stacked at tight end for a while. So, there's just not a lot of work to do right now. You can almost tread water with your picks, maybe make one or two big splash moves towards the end of the season in order to make a run. This is the guy that paid for this, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. This is a great team. Really, really great team.
No, he's gonna pay extra for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll need a tip. Follow me at Buy and Sell You. I'll give you my cash app.
This receiving core is phenomenal for now
Yeah.
and for later. Absolutely love it. Yeah, this team. I mean, when we were going through the first handful of teams, we kept asking like, where are the good players? Is this like top heavy league?
Yeah.
And it turns out it is. These top two players, I mean, these top two teams, Baby Yagas and Big TDs, these are the teams that are not only going to dominate this year, they're going to be hard to take down for the next several years.
Right. Yeah, and I mean honestly, in Dynasty, it's that way pretty often, and that actually, the nice thing about that is it says to me that the bottom teams, um, well, at least I hope that they recognize that and that they embrace it. There's no sense in competing if you got no shot.
Right.
So that's when you got to stack up on. I'm just surprised that on the teams at the bottom here, there were not more draft picks, because it seemed like still some of the teams at the top had the draft picks.
This team's got 4 first-round picks over the next 2 years.
Yeah, so
Possibly the best team in the league.
Yeah, so the bottom teams. I mean, when I take over a dynasty team, like I mean, I have a fire sale. I rip it down until I've got 7 first rounders in the next 3 years. You know what I mean? So it's a waiting game. It takes patience, but as long as you don't mind that process, then that's the way you have to go. You have to look at it in a long term. That's what dynasty is all about. You're not going to win immediately every time. Sometimes it's going to take you 2-3 years to get back towards the top of the standings.
Well, I'm wondering if some of these people in this league, because this league only started last year,
Right.
I'm wondering if some of these people are a little bit new
Yeah.
to the dynasty format, because they've let these 2 top teams there shouldn't be, in a second year of a dynasty league, there shouldn't be 2 teams that are already this dominant
Right.
compared to the rest of the league.
Without having sacrificed hardly any picks.
Right, exactly. And like we just said, this team has actually added picks on top of that. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, that can be hard to do, if you've only ever done redraft before. And I'm not saying that that's what you guys are doing. I don't want to insult anybody here. But that's just kind of, guys are afraid to rebuild. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because what is clear to me is that even the teams towards the bottom feel like they've got a pretty strong starting lineup, as though they were drafting a redraft league. And then we look at the bench and we look at the taxi and we're like, they're not doing any homework beyond who they think they're starting every week. And obviously that's what you got to get better at. And rebuilding can be fun, man. Trust me. If you could see my DMs on Twitter, it's just full of guys that ask me only about rebuilding teams.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like somebody has a team they think is good. If they ask me if I would like a trade, I'll tell them that. But I don't give them any direction for winning teams. I'm more of a rebuild guy. So,
and it's so satisfying once you come out of that rebuild and you've actually accomplished the rebuild and now you're contending.
Yeah. I mean, I had one I decided to rebuild I guess 2 years ago, and I held Justin Jefferson until week, I think, until he came back from injury last year, and I traded him for like 6 million acres of land, basically. And I ended up coming out of the draft with Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, JJ McCarthy, Penix, Nix. You know what I mean? And that's what you can do with some of these, really high priced guys. I'm not saying you can get that much from them, but you can get a first round pick for a damn good player that's somebody that isn't going to help you very much for the next couple of years.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's your prediction here? Who do you think wins this league in 2024?
The answer is, I think the last one we just did. I find it hard to choose between the last two. But I'm going to go with the commish. I'm going to go with the Baby Yagas.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to come down to those last two. I'm going to go big TDs. I still like big TDs. I think they're going to win it.
We did say too that let's see, was it? I can't remember. I think it was Peruvian neckties. Whoever it was, we said could empty the chamber if they were within striking distance. That team, if they do that and say my favorite, which is fuck them picks, when you're winning, and just cash it all in on depth and make yourself that much stronger. I think we definitely could see like the third or the fourth team in there sneak up into those standings. Obviously, it's just whoever's going to catch the breaks and avoid the most injuries.
Well, I mean, nobody else in this league has done that. So somebody has to zig when everybody else is zagging.
Right.
So somebody should aggressively do something like that. And we also need somebody to aggressively rebuild as well. And those teams could really, especially in this particular league, could really make a big difference if they aggressively commit to one way or another.
Right. Yeah, and it can actually be kind of exciting too when you decide you're rebuilding and you play the guy that's right above you in the standings and you guys are fighting for last place and you manage to lose even by playing like a full lineup. Like you played your best guys, they played their best guys, then you lost and you're like, yeah.
That's how I felt as a Patriots fan last year. I was rooting for that team to lose every week.
Right.
It's the same thing. Can they get the Chargers are terrible, Patriots are terrible, praying the Patriots lose. So it's kind of the same thing. Yeah, I mean, do you have any last thoughts? I think the only other thing I would say is some of those teams we said were in the middle, the middle pack. They need, like we just said, they need to make a decision one way or another. They need to consider that how good these top two teams are. They need to really, really be honest with the potential of their roster this year. And just
am I going to compete with them, or is it going to be next year? And then if you're not going to compete with them, trade with them, take their picks. Because they'll be more than happy to give them to you if it means they got a shot at the chip.
And rebuilds, they don't have to take 3 years. You can get that done in a year. So, all right. Well, if you don't have any final thoughts, I think we'll wrap it up here.
I don't have anything else. I just, if you guys want to do this again, like halfway through the season, let us see if anybody's made any moves. We would love to come on and do it again. And, if any of you guys want to jump on and sit in with us or anything like that, we could do that.
Yes.
But, for sure, until then, make sure you're following Yards Per Fantasy on Twitter. You can follow Alex on his Twitter @there and me on mine. And the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube, Alex has tons of shorts on there. like guys you should go after, guys who are going to break out, guys who are trade bait, guys who are, stuff like that. So make sure you check those out. They're short clips and they're really fun to watch. And you can always find me Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. to game time Eastern, on Twitter for all starts and sit questions. You just at me.
All right. Thanks again, guys. This was a lot of fun. This is a great league, and hopefully we'll get to catch up with you soon.
Yeah, it was fun.